Hello and welcome to your number one tech show. This is Take on Tech, and as always, we have a packed up show for you. The conversation today is around cyber hygiene, and Grace Githaga will be tackling that later on in the show. For you to remember is the hashtag, which is Take on Tech at KBC Channel 1, where you can converse with us. My name is Stephanie Ayeta. Today on Your Take, we want to know what is your recommendation as the best cyber hygiene practice. Talk to us because your opinion always counts. The hashtag to use is Take on Tech at KBC Channel 1. In tech news, KPLC is introducing Sambaza tokens, a product that is targeting prepaid customers. And internationally, Twitter stocks have dropped after Elon Musk backed down on takeover plan. This and much more details in our tech news roundup. Twitter's shares dropped by 5.46% on Wall Street to $34.8 on 11th July after Elon Musk ditched a $44 billion deal to buy the social media giant. Musk pulled the plug on the deal, accusing the company of misleading statements about the number of fake accounts, according to a letter from his lawyers, a copy of which was filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Musk's effort to terminate the deal that he inked in April sets the stage for an epic court battle over $1 billion breakup fee. The social network says the number of fake accounts is less than 5%, a figure challenged by the multi-billionaire who believes the number to be much higher. Twitter has hired a prominent New York law firm, Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen & Katz, which specializes in merger and acquisition law, as it prepares to fight Elon Musk over his decision. After the news broke out, Musk tweeted, "They said I couldn't buy Twitter, then they wouldn't disclose bought information. Now they want to force me to buy Twitter in court. Now they have to disclose bought info in court." This was his statement, accompanied by pictures of him laughing. Kenya Power will unveil a platform that allows the sharing of electricity tokens under an innovative platform that seeks to offer prepaid customers more options in utilizing power. The acting managing director of the power utility, Geoffrey Muli, told Business Daily that the company has given the go-ahead to Numeral IoT, the Kenyan tech firm developing the application, setting the stage for its piloting in the coming days. The application will be a big win for tenants who lose out on electricity tokens when they shift houses, and it will be a game changer given that it will allow customers to share electricity with friends and relatives. KPLC's MD said they visited the factory and approved that it is a practical solution which is currently at the innovation stage being worked on by the developer. Maurice Mbetsa, founder of Numeral IoT, said the application will be a game changer to Kenya's electricity consumption by offering prepaid customers more options. Kenya Power is banking on increased use of technology to increase sales and also cut down on losses incurred through illegal electricity connections. The state-owned power utility has also rolled out smart meters for businesses, offering Kenya Power ability to monitor connections in real time. Kenya Power has also announced plans to launch a fixed internet service named Lead Fiber. It will go live in June 2023. Dozens of people have sent donations to Ukraine. These are donations that are set to help Ukraine build a drone army. We have more details in our Tech of the Week. Ukraine is building an army of drones using the donation it has received from foreign allies and charitable organizations, according to a report by BBC News. Described as a complex program, the proposed collection involves purchasing more unmanned systems, providing necessary maintenance, and ensuring the availability of replacements. The program includes training Ukrainian operators to use military drones for for surveillance and combat missions. The drones will be equipped by sophisticated cameras, a global positioning system, and mapping tools. Last month, Turkish drone manufacturer Baker delivered 3 high-performance unmanned aerial vehicles to the Ukrainian army as a result of a recent crowdfunding campaign. American technology firm AeroVironment has also donated 100 reconnaissance drones to Kyiv to help defend against invading Russian forces. The Quantix unmanned aircraft system will provide accurate and rapid reconnaissance in dynamic battlefield environments. Lithuanian Defense Minister has also announced that the Ukrainian armed forces will receive a crowd-funded Turkish-made military drone from Lithuania. Since the Russian president launched a special military operation in Ukraine, the two countries have relied heavily on high-performance drones for reconnaissance and strikes. However, a Forbes report claims Ukraine seems to be winning the drone battle as it continues to neutralize or push back Russian drones. We now join Grace Githaiga in Tech Talk, where she's going to have a conversation around cyber hygiene with Dr. Kate Getao.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for that introduction. Welcome to the interview section of Take on Tech, a weekly program that brings you technological concepts and debates and breaks them down in an untech manner. In today's interview section, we are looking at the topic of cyber hygiene. What is cyber hygiene? And how different is it from cybersecurity? Or is it different? In the studio to break it down for us, we have Dr. Catherine Getao, who is an ICT consultant as well as an ICT elder. Welcome to the show, Dr. Getao.
Thank you so much, Grace.
We'll straight go into the question, what is cyber hygiene and how is this different from cybersecurity?
Okay, so I notice I'm the only one in this environment who doesn't have a device in my hand. So our lives have changed completely. We communicate, we do our business, we socialize using devices. And I think most of us have now come across various threats. I think the one we've seen most frequently recently is the SIM swap. So we know that there are things that happen sometimes to harm us, even as we use devices. So cyber hygiene is the actions and routines and habits that we adopt to try and stay safe as we work with our devices and the applications that we normally use. And it's very similar to in the world of transport. Most of us anyway have a way of crossing the road, for example, that is safe. Obviously, if you just run across a road, your chances of making it across are less than if you use the normal routine of looking right and left and making sure that there's no vehicle approaching before you cross the road. Or more recently, with the health threats that we've seen, most of us are washing our hands and taking other measures to minimize the chance that we will get a serious disease. So cyber hygiene is the set of practices that we adopt when we're using devices and applications to stay safe while online.
Just speaking from that safety aspect, just break it down on some of the components or why it is important for citizens to be conscious of cyber hygiene.
Okay, well, for example, many of us find that when we got our first SIM card, it had a 4-digit number, which we called a PIN, which we used to type into our phones every time we wanted to access the functions of the SIM card, like making phone calls or using mobile money or any other thing that we want to do with our phone. Now, many of us didn't know why that number is important. So you either find a way of not having it at all, or you choose a very simple number like 0000. Now, when you understand cyber hygiene, you will realize that that number is protecting your SIM card so that it is confined to you alone and somebody else cannot use or misuse your SIM card because they don't know the PIN. So when you know the basics of cyber hygiene, you understand why you're doing certain things, why you need a password for your phone, why you need a PIN for your SIM card or for your bank card, why your bank sends you a text or sends you an alert when something happens on your account. Once you understand, then you appreciate those measures and you cooperate with them. But when you don't understand about cyber hygiene, you just find those things a little bit of a nuisance because you just want to transact quickly without these extra steps.
When we come back, you will tell us how, if somebody finds themselves in such a scenario, how do they navigate? Take on Tech takes a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with the conversation on cyber hygiene. Please continue following us on our social media handles, and that's at KBC Channel 1 on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. You're watching the interview section of Take on Tech, in which we are talking about cyber hygiene with Dr. Kate Getao. Now, Dr. Getao, before we took the break, you were just giving us some of the threats that wananchi face where cyber hygiene is concerned. Now, maybe please continue with that conversation and tell us, how can victims navigate some of the challenges that you have highlighted?
Okay, the best thing is not to be a victim in the first place. And therefore, that is why at this moment, we're trying to develop a cyber hygiene curriculum so that we can have messages and very basic information that helps people recognize the simple steps they can take in order to minimize their chances of becoming a victim in the first place. Because once you're a victim, that means you've already lost something. And usually the kinds of losses, of course, the most common one is you've lost some money, usually from your mobile money account. You can also lose your reputation because there are other types of cyber unhygienic practices. For example, now you hear more and more about cyberbullying, where people insult one another terribly on the social media, using the social media platforms. And of course, this is very hurtful to people's reputations, because the whole world is in this space. So if well, of course, I would not insult you on this program because all the viewers would see that insult. But when you're online or on the internet, it's even worse.
So how do people then navigate? Because this really is where the issue is.
Yes, so the first thing is to make yourself aware of the different types of threats. Yeah, and as I said, there are issues of losing your money, there are issues about your reputation, there are issues about your data also. because most of us are keeping a lot of data on our phones and on our other devices, our tablets and laptops. There are photographs. There's the contact list where you put all your contacts, your friends. Yeah, so these are the three major ones. I could go on and on, but you want to know the solution. Unfortunately, the solution is not so simple that I can say in 3 words, this is what you need to do. But you certainly need to inform yourself. I noticed that most of the providers, the telecom companies, they give information on the latest scams. Communications Authority and also the ICT Authority, they also provide information on their websites and from time to time using other media. So don't just brush those things aside. Please, when you see such a message, take note of it, so that because they're talking about something that is happening in the space, and if you know about it, you're less likely to be caught out. The other thing I'll say is you need to be cautious. So if somebody sends you a message or they phone you and this is an unknown person, you should, the British say, you are on the side of caution. So don't just be ready to converse with this person, to follow their instructions and so on, even when what they're offering you sounds very attractive. You should first think, could this be a criminal approach? And it's much cheaper to make a phone call and check either with your telco provider or with your bank or even with a friend than to quickly respond to this unbeatable offer and then later find that you have lost quite a bit of money and you know, it's difficult to recover it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think needs to happen in terms of, I guess, policies or law enforcement? Because, you know, there are all these complaints. People lose money, say they lose money through mobile transactions, and it's because they missed one digit. You know, the person who was sent the money transacts on it, so the mobile provider is not able to get back that money. People go to the police, and you know, there's that game from police, you know, to the mobile provider. What needs to be done to actually start dealing with issues of cyber hygiene?
I think the first point of call is to educate the public, and for the public also to take responsibility to educate themselves. Yes, it's true, we have a police force, we have laws, but even in your home, I'm sure you have your own protection. You've put burglar proofing on your windows, you have a key, you lock your door, you have cupboards in your house where you can lock your valuables. So even though there's an infrastructure that protects you, you still take steps to protect yourself. So I think the first thing is really emphasizing on the cyber hygiene part, which is what do people do to inform themselves and to protect themselves. Now, when we go further, I know that the government has made an effort. There are a number of laws. There's the Data Protection Act, there's the Computer and Cyber Crimes, and there's other emerging legislation, because this is a very important area for the government. So we're progressively creating all the legislation that we need. But remember that legislation often comes after the fact. Yeah, it's better not to get into the problem in the first place than to get into the problem and then, you know, the law is there to help you, but it can take several years. You can go through a lot of inconvenience by the time you get redress for what has happened. And then I believe we need to report because the statistics, the reports are what let the telecommunications companies and the government know what citizens are going through. When we just accept what has happened to us and just write it off, then it is not known to be a general problem, if you know what I mean. So even though it seems like a waste of time to sometimes to report when you've suffered a loss or a problem, it is not a waste of time, because the only way that there will be a response is when people realize there are a lot of people experiencing a problem and suffering from it. So please, as citizens, take that time to report to your telecommunications company, to your bank, and even to the police that you have suffered a problem of some type. And that description and that record is there. And that is important. Now, I could go on and on, but you said that Take on Tech is about saying things
in a very
simple way.
Yes.
So maybe I'll just stop with those simple steps.
Yes, and you know, we're almost coming to the end of the interview. So, and you've just talking on the, you've spoken to the issue of the need for people to report when they've been scammed, to report to their banks, to report to the police. But speak to wananchi like in a minute on what they need to do. For example, you gave that example of washing our hands during COVID. It had become so normal for us. So what should they do in terms of cyber hygiene?
Okay, a few simple steps. One, it is important to have the PIN for your SIM. It is important to have a password for your device and not to share it with everybody. Not to share that. That is your own secret information. The second thing I would say is most of us like to download a lot of applications, and some of them are asking so many questions at the beginning, isn't it? Can I access your contacts? Can I access your photos? Can I access your storage? And so on. You need to think about the answers to those questions, because really you ought to know why do you need to access my photos? And what are you going to do? Of course, that is in the small print. We call it small print,
Yes.
those things which we don't like to read.
Right.
For now, let's read them. But I think what we should be pushing for as citizens is we just need a simple statement of what are you going to do with this information and what are your limitations when it comes.
Okay.
Are you going to start downloading my photos and using them on the internet? Yes, so I think it's a matter of educating yourself, being a lot more cautious, and especially adopt always having a key to your device, your SIM card, your applications, and anything else that is valuable to you online.
Okay. I think that's a good way to end this interview section. Thank you so much, Dr. Getao, for that information on cyber hygiene. I know that you know, people will start paying attention to some of the issues that you have raised. So that brings us to the end of the interview section. Please continue following us on our social media handles, and that's at KBC Channel 1 on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. And please continue watching. My name is Grace Kidaiga.
In Innovators Club, we challenge you to try and solve a problem in the world by coming up with your own innovation or invention. And we have always brought you great innovators and great minds. And this is what we have for you today.
My name is McDonald Donkundi. I'm a 3D multimedia artist. Been doing this for around 3 years now, from 2017. Being a 3D media artist entails so many things. There are so many areas of specialty. Like you can specialize in one area. There are like steps that we do when you are being a 3D artist. So basically, you start from the modeling, rigging, the lighting. There are so many steps, so it depends on which area you want to specialize most. I personally have specialized in 3D modeling and lighting and a bit of animation. Basically, animation is a long process, but to cut it short, you must have a sketchbook. You put down an idea, take part on how the models will be, the environment, and possibly the actions that the character will take. So basically, you'll start from modeling, then you come to rigging of the character, and then you come down to the placing of the character in the 3D setup. You do the lighting, the animating, then there's the final processes, you render, then you do the post-production. Modeling is self-explanatory. You know, when you were kids, you are given the modeling clay, then you just model maybe a doll. Basically, that's what is modeling. But now, you do it in a computer software. Yeah, maybe you start with the character, modeling the head, the hands, and then you join to make a whole complete person.
So that
You have modeled, there's this process called rigging. Rigging is basically putting the model in its own skeleton. Yeah. So you rig, you do the character, you put the skeleton, you assign the. Actually, it's like assigning joints to the character. So when you move this joint, it will do what you want. Yeah. For the voicing, that one you record. You have a voiceover artist. You pre-record in a studio. Then during the animation, there is something we call a lip sync. Basically, that's you just do a lip sync of the recorded voiceover to the character's mouth movements. For a film to be complete, it will roughly take about 4 years. That's for a 1 hour or 2 hours video that you'll just sit once and watch. Personally, I have a few projects, but I won't release them now because they have some issues, but possibly with time you'll start seeing some of them. For 2D animation, it's cheap and it's easier. That one a person can do roughly for a clip, like 30 minutes. You can work for it on a month. Yeah, and it's easier. It's something maybe if you make a mistake, you can easily correct it. You can go back a step. For 3D, it's quite challenging because the processes are many. Like I've said, you have to model, you have to do the rigging, the modeling, the setups. There are other things like animating the wind, those are nodes. Yeah. And it takes a lot of time to come up with the output.
That brings us to the end of today's show. But remember, you can still interact with us on our social media platform at KBC Channel 1. The hashtag to use is Take on Tech. The question we have asked you today, you tell us what recommendation you would give as the best practice for cyber hygiene. You can also talk to me at Stephanie_Ayeta on Instagram or Stephanie Ayeta across all other social media platforms. Let's meet next week, same time, same place. Until then, let's keep it tech. Adios.